What's going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning in to another segment of Mikasa Sukasa. And as always, I am your host, Niko House. We do have some breaking news. Ed Schultz of MSNBC has come out on the record and said that the president of MSNBC told him not to cover Bernie Sanders' campaign. Now, as most of you all know, although the fact that Ed Schultz is breaking this news about MSNBC, in another sense, it is not breaking news because a lot of us already knew that MSNBC had not covered it. Now, what makes this so different, however, is that Ed Schultz, as most of you all know, was pretty high up there in the ranks of MSNBC, and he had not broken the news before. Now, we've heard people say that, like for example, Cenk, as much as many people don't like him, he did say in the past that MSNBC tried to control his tone, and that's why he was let go. Well, it's contended whether or not he was let go or whether he left. But either way, he said that MSNBC tried to control his tone. But Ed Schultz said that not only did they try to control his tone, but they essentially told him not to cover the campaign. Here's a clip of some of the conversation that Ed had.
The end of the year.
So my question is, how would you describe working at MSNBC versus RT? What are the differences? What are the similarities?
Well, I appreciate the question. This is the best job I've ever had in my 42 years of broadcasting. It's the best company I've ever worked for. It's the most freedom I've ever had. And I have really grown on the level of international knowledge and foreign relations, which has been very career rewarding. I've been able to travel the world. I've been able to interview
with RT.
With RT, been able to interview numerous people from different countries that have a totally different perspective than what Americans have. I'm doing real journalism. It's not opinion. I anchor the news. I facilitate a discussion, and I enjoy this role very much. It's really been a real pleasure working here for the last 2.5 years, and I really don't know when I'm going to give it up. I'm enjoying it that much.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, Ed.
But let me go back, if I may, because you said, what are the differences?
Yes.
And I want to make this very clear, and I hope your audience consumes this. There was more oversight and more direction given to me on content at MSNBC than there ever has been here at RT. And I think that it's very sad that that story is not getting out. I think it's many times I was told what to lead with on MSNBC. Many times I was told what I was not going to do, and I've got a story that had I not been involved in it, I would have never believed it. And Phil Griffin, who I consider a friend to this day, was a watchdog, far more than anything I am exposed to here at RT America.
Did he tell you what to say? Did he tell you an angle to take?
Often. In fact, when Bernie Sanders was announcing that he was going to be a candidate for the nomination of the Democratic Party in Burlington, Vermont, I was the only cable host between Fox, MSNBC, and CNN that was there live to cover it. Now, there were live cameras there, but we had coordinated with the Sanders campaign that at 5 o'clock he was going to make his announcement, and we were going to cover this on the Ed Show. I go to Bernie Sanders' house that afternoon and interview in the backyard, about a 15-minute interview. The grandkids are running around. It's a big day for the Sanders family. He's going to announce that he's running for president. We're going to carry it live later on in the day, and we're going to run this one-on-one tape with Bernie. 3,000 people are there on Lake Champlain. It's 5 minutes to air, and I get a phone call from Phil Griffin, "You're not covering this." I said, "Phil, Bernie Sanders is announcing he's running for president. He's going to be a president. I don't care. You're not covering this." And it got rather contentious. And
Why though?
I don't. Well, now you're asking me for opinion. I'm giving you fact right now about what happened. Mm-hmm. And other people who were there with me will attest to the fact and back me up that this is what happened. We were told that we had to cover something down in Texas that was totally meaningless, and another press conference in Baltimore, which was already had been in the news for a few days. We're covering Bernie Sanders live. We're coordinated with his campaign. And I'm told 5 minutes before, you're not covering Bernie Sanders. Now, let me give you the opinion. I think the Clintons were connected to Andy Lack, connected at the hip. I think that they didn't want anybody in their prime time or anywhere in their lineup supporting Bernie Sanders. I think that they were in the tank for Hillary Clinton, and I think it was managed, and 45 days later I was out at MSNBC.
Now, I will post the link to the rest of that podcast interview in the description below, but this highlights a grand problem that I think a lot of us have been covering in the independent media. But once again, this does a great job of reaffirming that you all have been right for trusting in us, and we have been right for trusting our gut, of course, in combination with trusting the facts, and also trusting the facts that have been left out of the way. We all know that Bernie Sanders' campaign had been suppressed. This was not news to us. But I think that some people have not realized that in 2018, really, a lot of news has been coming out that really goes to prove how bad our media has become. And how right, if you are going to assume now that anytime the mainstream media claims that there's an anonymous source, right? Anytime the mainstream media tries to steer a candidate or a person towards a question or a conclusion, that it is there to serve an agenda. Anytime Rachel Maddow gets on MSNBC and touts about Russia, just assume she's lying. Because Ed Schultz has now come on and said that he has more freedom at Russia Today, which is where he switched to after he left MSNBC. So he has more freedom at RT than he ever did at MSNBC. Now, according to Facebook, Twitter, MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, and everyone else under the sun, RT is a Russian propagandist network. Mind you, I have several friends that work at MSNBC, or excuse me, at RT America. Samira Khan being one of them, who is probably the most, communist probably isn't even a word to describe Samira. Hope she's watching, by the way. But I have a lot of friends that work at RT, and a lot of acquaintances that work at RT, and a lot of friends who have been on RT, and their message has never been controlled. However, on MSNBC, people get cut off all the time. CNN, people get cut off. Bernie got cut off. Another person got cut off talking about the Syria conflict. And yet, we've come to find out that Ed Schultz tried to cover Bernie Sanders' campaign. Not only was he cut off, he got a call from the president, and he even said, I'm not going to speculate why he wants to wanted to shut out Bernie Sanders' campaign. But he said he got a call from the president of MSNBC, as he was about to do a live interview in Bernie Sanders' backyard the day that he was going to announce that he was running for president. And he was told, do not cover this story. As much as we want to believe that we can trust the mainstream media, even in the slightest bit, as much as it makes us very uncomfortable that there is massive amounts of money, influence, and pull within the mainstream media and outside of the mainstream media controlling those puppets, we can take solace in the fact that at least we know that the people that we have listened to consistently over the last 2 to 3 years have guided us in the right direction, have at the very bare minimum, even if they don't get it right 100% of the time, at least we can trust their intention. But what Ed Schultz has dropped is a bombshell. In other words, this is the type of interview that you save. You put it in a corner. You save it in your iPhone or your MacBook notes, or you put it in that, or you're on your Google Drive, maybe not Google Drive, but you save the interview. And the next time someone talks to you about Jill Stein being the Russia bot because Rachel Maddow said so, you drop that link. Anytime someone tries to tell you that Bernie Sanders was the cause of Hillary Clinton losing the election because CNN said so, you drop that link. Anytime anyone wants to tell you that Russia was the one who caused our elections to go haywire, when I say go haywire, I don't mean because Donald Trump won. I mean because Hillary Clinton should have never won the primary. And that's what I mean by haywire. It wasn't Russia that caused that. But anytime someone tries to tell you that, you drop that link. Anytime Joanne Reed tweets anything, literally anything, I don't care what she does. She can say, how's everybody doing today? Drop that link. As a matter of fact, we're going to start a new campaign called Drop That Link. Because who am I going to believe? RT hasn't lied to me. You know, RT is, they have a show called Crosstalk. Not one time have I watched Crosstalk where I felt like Peter Lavelle is actually conservative. I thought he was progressive the entire time, which really goes to show how distorted our reality is in the United States. I did not know Peter Lavelle was a conservative until he went on to Jimmy Dore's show and told us that he was conservative. But isn't that how it should be? That your leanings should not matter. Your leanings should not dictate the facts. It should not dictate how you interpret the facts. It really should, more than anything else, it shouldn't dictate your logic. Now, your leanings should really only control how you go about achieving the same goal. But if both of you have pure intentions, then compromise is usually the best route when it comes to your ideological leanings. But within American media, they only lean one way. And that's the way that the establishment wind blows. I want to thank Ed Schultz for breaking this news. I want to thank you for telling the truth about RT. So that's two instances in 3 days where the independent media has been proven right, people. Andrew McCabe's OIG report told us that the conflict of interest were fireable. That was an issue worthy of termination according to the FBI. Not myself, not Donald Trump, not H.A. Goodman, not Tim Black, not Mike Figueredo, not Kyle Kulinski. That was the FBI. They said that was a fireable offense, those conflict of interest. Now we have this telling us, Ed said it best. RT never controlled me. MSNBC did. MSNBC actively suppressed. RT did not. So that's RT exonerated. Now, with that being said, how many things have they lied about? Think about all the topics that we've discussed. Seth Rich, obviously Russiagate, Sean Lucas, rest in peace to both of them. The DNC fraud law. Hell, the Young Turks and all the $20 million that they've taken, that they came down on us hard for even criticizing, and they got ahead of that, right? Anna Kasparian claiming that being demonetized isn't a form of suppression, coming from the woman worth $2 million. What else have we been right about that they lied about. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and always remember, more than anything, find your balance.